get much of that in the courtroom, but you do hear the word voir dire. But to speak the truth. We are charged with the moral responsibility of speaking the truth about this plant. And it does have industrial uses as a hemp plant. It does have medical uses, and has all along, and it will continue to be, regardless of whatever the government says. That this is an area of personal choice in your life. That if you're a Rastafarian, or you might use it in your personal religion. It's a First Amendment issue. It's a Fourth Amendment issue where they're trying to violate your rights against search and seizure. And when you're driving down the streets in Indianapolis right before the election, I haven't seen it since, last year, they had roadblocks all through town and throughout the state. And they bring drug dogs up to the car just to check for your own safety. If you're wearing your seatbelt, I had to pull you over to see if you're wearing it. They're trying to change that, but they bring the dog up to your car just for a safety check in the middle of town on an arbitrary street. You know, this is unconstitutional as hell. So I don't care what your interest is, but the using safety or something as a guise to bust more people for pot. You know, violent crime's running amok in this town. It's rape, and they say that all the violent crimes are down. Well, just slightly, there might be a dip now, but it could be the way they report it too. But whatever I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Violent crime in society in the last 20 years has gone nuts. At the same time, they've increased enforcement and more enforcement and more forfeiture laws and tax laws on your dough. And as they increase the penalties and make them even more severe and build more prisons in Indiana at $200 million a pop, where we can put our citizens in jail for $30,000 a year, where they get absolutely no treatment, it's just absurd and immoral. And we've got to tell the truth. We've got to speak the truth. That this is wrong expenditure of our funds, that we could free up police officers from stopping people that obviously aren't doing any more than lawfully driving down the street before they're subjected to drug dog sniffs, which they don't call a search, by the way, because the dog can sniff it emanating from the car. It may feel like a search when they're chewing through your car and arresting you. But this is outrageous. It's political and it's bullshit. And people are dying. People are dying. The Shepherd case.
We have a house where our doggies belong. All of our lives, our old doggies pull us along. Dozo and Floozy and Twiggy, a fearsome guard. Protecting our castle, protecting our kingdom, our yard. Our doggies just stretch and grin. They call our house the creme de la creme, creme de la creme. Summer's a-slippin' out the door. Soon leaves will color a forest floor. Dozo and Floozy and Twinkie, our three musketeers. call our house the creme de la creme, creme de la creme. We have a house where our doggies belong.
It may feel like a search when they're chewing through your car and arresting you. But this is outrageous. It's political and it's bullshit. And people are dying. People are dying. The Shepard case in Kentucky several years ago, Gary Shepard, the kids are getting killed and stuff over serving marijuana things. I've got, just recently, we've got search warrants here in Indiana for a marijuana plant. They got no knock and announce. Because the guy had one marijuana plant in the closet with a fire smoke detector going off. They've got no knock on it because he's such a dangerous guy. We can bust through the door in the middle of the night to seize him with his marijuana plant. It's still going on right now. It's outrageous. Let me tell you what the laws are in Indiana, just so we can tell the truth to people about what it is, because people don't understand the law, and I don't expect you to, but they don't give you any slack because they'll say ignorance of the law is no excuse. Most lawyers don't know the laws on drugs, and most of them don't have their heart in defending you. They'd rather turn you into a snitch, which is something that I'm personally opposed to, and Ross is, and Andy is, people in this office, and a few other people in the state. It's a misdemeanor. Well, let me start with first what the law used to be. When I started practicing law in 1975, in this building, no, I was a public defender then. I had worked in this building with Allison from 73 to 75 as a law student. Law clerk. But when I first got sworn in 75 with a swear to uphold the Constitution, that's what I'm trying to do. Very few politicians, I think, really mean that. But the law was, it was a 2 to 10 for possession first offense. You could get 10. It was indeterminate sentences, so it was up to the parole board in Indiana when you got out that you got sentenced to 2 to 10 years in prison first offense for possession of marijuana, and if it was over 25 grams. Now the break, you might know, on an ounce of marijuana is 28.4 grams. But you couldn't even have an ounce of it without getting up to 10 years in prison first offense in the state. When we got active with normal, that's what the laws were. If you happen to give it to somebody, even without profit, and you were over 21 and the person you gave it to was under 18, it was double. And the penalties were not 2 to 10 for possession. It was delivery was 5 to 20. You could get 20 years for giving somebody an ounce of marijuana. But if they were a kid, you could get double that. You could get 10 years to 40 years first offense for an ounce of marijuana to a teenager if you were 21. But they didn't have the forfeiture stuff. And they also had a law, and they didn't have all the visiting kind of nuisance stuff, and they didn't have all that in there. But what they did have is a provision in the Indiana law that was changed in '76 that said it was a defense to possession of marijuana if you had a prescription from a doctor and a valid practitioner in the course of treatment.